A craven ratings stunt. NBC, what NBC did last night with the dueling town halls, what the hell was that about? Here is a man, well, I just shared with you what the New York Times editorial board said. And you don't need the New York Times editorial board to tell you how corrupt this rancid bastard Donald Trump is and what he's trying to do to this country and what his enablers are doing and what his supporters and backers, they're trying to lead this country into civil war, dead people in the streets, violence, brutality, fires, destruction. You know, the kind of shit that they're trying to lay off on Joe Biden. As if. So what does NBC do? NBC? By God, BC? They put this Nazi son of a bitch on the air for 90 minutes. 90 minutes of Trump propaganda. It's just astonishing. There's a lot of stuff out there now about what this network did last night. Common Dreams website has a piece here that says entertainers and journalists who have worked with NBC in the past and present were among those who expressed outrage over that network's decision to air a so-called town hall event with King Rat. And many critics yesterday were calling for a blackout of the network. Don't watch. I watched a bit from both ABC, which carried Joe Biden, and NBC. And I watched Savannah Guthrie struggling to try to get the orange bastard to answer a question. And Savannah, I found myself talking to the television again. Now, that's a bad sign, right? That's a bad sign when you're talking to the television and expecting a response. But I wanted to tell Savannah Guthrie, you cannot out-talk this lying son of a bitch. He's had 74 years of perfecting his ability to bullshit, lie, corrupt, destroy, tear down, eliminate, ruin. And Savannah Guthrie sitting there 15 feet away from him was like to Trump, a huge chunk of raw meat. Just like Joe Biden was during the first so-called debate. Trump doesn't play nice. Let me put it that way. But how do we get to that? Well, Joe Biden's campaign called for the second presidential debate to be held virtually following the King Rat's diagnosis of having COVID-19, which he may or may not have had. And King Rat, on getting that invitation, more or less, said that a virtual event would be, quote, a waste of time. So the debate was canceled. And that led ABC to plan a 90-minute town hall event featuring Biden. And then what did NBC do? Well, NBC, Universal News Group Chairman Cesar Conde announced Wednesday, the day before this event, that NBC would air its own town hall with Trump beginning at the same time as Biden's. A decision, of course, that was just freaked out NBC staffers and media critics as a decision that played right into Trump's hands. 100-plus current and former NBC employees issued this statement to their company, quote, "You are enabling the president's bad behavior while undercutting the Presidential Debate Commission and doing a disservice to the American people. We believe this kind of indifference to the norms and rules of our democracy are what have brought our country to this perilous state, end quote. But NBC doesn't give a shit. Why should they? They're not in the business to inform the public. They're in the business to sell junk, crap, nonsense, pharmaceuticals that may kill you if you don't check with your doctor before you take them. As the Daily Beast reported, critics and employees of the network, and NBC was the longtime home of Trump's reality shows, The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice. But the Daily Beast reported that critics and employees at NBC said that King Rat would likely bring high ratings to the network as curious Americans tune in to watch the spectacle of King Rat not answering questions and spreading lies about the coronavirus pandemic and every other issue that this son of a bitch has ever talked about. Trump has not told the truth about anything since he, along with the help of Russian military intelligence, took the presidency of the United States. Nothing, not one thing that has come out of his mouth has had even a distant relationship with the truth. He is a pathological liar. Television writer Nell Scoville wrote, quote, "This decision by NBC is not just journalistically incorrect, but morally incorrect," end quote. Yeah, why would the National Broadcasting Company decide to provide a 90-minute forum for a propagandistic, lying son of a bitch like Trump, who wants to burn the country down? Why didn't they just send this miserable bastard over to Fox, where he belongs? He belongs on the Fox sewer. But Fox is not an over-the-air broadcaster. It's a cable broadcaster, right? Consequently, NBC provided, 25 million people, whereas the best that Fox could do would be maybe 6 or 7 million? And do you think this is going to lessen Trump's attacks on NBC? Shit. NBC, if it weren't for MSNBC, I would be so gone from your family of television networks. So gone. And it was my understanding that MSNBC was not going to cover it, but MSNBC did cover it. Columbia Journalism Review editor Kyle Pope compared the situation to the first presidential debate, during which King Rat shouted over Biden and Chris Wallace. And NBC News executives, according to Common Dreams, are apparently unconcerned about voters' ability to hear from both candidates as Election Day approaches. The editor of the Columbia Journalism Review, Kyle Pope, tweeted, calling the programming decision, quote, "a craving ratings stunt, caving to the Trumpian impulses the network helped hone," end quote. It was NBC that put this miserable son of a bitch on way back when he was doing his Celebrity Apprentice crap. So anyway, King Rat promoted the fact that he was going to be on last night at a rally in Greenville, North Carolina the night before by accusing the network, accusing NBC of previously hosting a town hall for Biden that was a joke. And he referred to NBC's parent network as Concast, it's Comcast, and claiming that he's being set up by NBC Universal, the parent company. Set up? in a letter to the head of NBC Universal, Comcast CEO Brian Roberts, and NBC Universal Chairman Jeff Shell, in a letter to those three people, more than 100 entertainment professionals, including current NBC stars Mandy Moore, Justin Hartley, Chrissy Metz, wrote that the question of whether to air Trump's town hall in competition with Biden's event, quote, is not a partisan issue, but is rather about the political health of our democracy, end quote. And the letter also says this, quote, President Trump refused to participate in the virtual debate scheduled for Thursday night by the Presidential Debate Commission. By agreeing to air his town hall as counter-programming opposite Biden's town hall on ABC, you, NBC, are enabling the president's bad behavior while undercutting the Presidential Debate Commission and doing a disservice to the American people. We believe this kind of indifference to the norms and rules of our democracy are what have brought our country to this perilous state, end quote. Oh, and by the way, as just sort of a sidebar to all this bullshit, when I did tune over to NBC to watch Trump weasel and lie and cheat and bloviate about bullshit and poor Savannah Guthrie being sliced and diced, one thing I noticed, maybe you saw this too, every time the camera was on King Rat, over what would have been his left shoulder, his right shoulder, if you're looking at the screen, there was a woman back there. You couldn't make out anything about her features, except she did have on a mask, which I guess was the requirement if you wanted to be in there. But she had long hair. She was sitting there, and every time Trump would say something just outrageously bullshit, she would nod her approval. Every time Savannah Guthrie said something that this woman sitting behind Trump knew that King Rat wouldn't like, she would vigorously shake her head. The woman would. And it was like, what the hell is this? It was like some kind of a hand puppet sitting behind Trump, mimicking in a supportive to King Rat sort of way, every single thing the rat bastard said. Everything. Every time he mentioned QAnon, her head would go up and down. Or when he mentioned this or that, her head would shake side to side in perfect coordination with the lies that he was putting out there, thanks to NBC. Who the hell, who put her there? Oh, who cares, right? And then there was a comment from Shakina Nafak, who's a transgender actress who stars in the NBC show Connecting. She spoke out shortly after the network announced the town hall on Wednesday, slamming the NBC executives for, quote, a platform to someone who wants to abolish my rights, end quote. Well, they're not just your rights, Shakina Nafak. It's the rights of everybody in this country except the Christian, male, neo-fascist people of non-color. Everybody else is on Trump's erasure list. They talk about the cancel culture. King Rat wants to erase people, groups, ideas, beliefs, anything decent, good, positive, constructive, moral, ethical. Trump wants to erase it. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who has starred in several popular NBC shows, was among those on social media who called for the NBC blackout. Former Today co-host Katie Couric called the network's decision bad for democracy. Former Tonight Show host Conan O'Brien, who was pushed out of his role after only 9 months, jokingly compared NBC's decision to air Trump's town hall to his own experience with the network. He said, quote, I can't remember the last time I was this shocked by an NBC programming decision. End quote. What is it about certain aspects of American media, so-called mainstream media? And I know the answer to the question, so do you. It's all part of the capitalist, poisonous, cannibalistic capitalism. But I was going to say, what is it about certain aspects of American media that will provide a platform for someone who obviously is not out there competing in the marketplace of ideas? He wants to blow up the marketplace of ideas. He wants to destroy it. He wants to turn it into a bomb crater death scene. Trump is not somebody who wants to increase the diversity of discussion and ideas. He wants them to be destroyed. So why in God's name did NBC do this? Well, you know the answer. Money. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.